Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Student Senate tonight. I'm excited to kick this meeting off. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to call this meeting of Student Senate to order. We're going to forego the Pledge of Allegiance over Zoom. So instead, I'll move directly into our land acknowledgement. I want to begin our Student Senate meeting taking place on Thursday, October 22nd, 2020 with a land acknowledgement. We recognize that Kansas State University, as the first land-grant institution, stands on the ancestral lands of the Kaw people. Our state of Kansas is the home of 4 federally recognized Native nations, the Iowa, Kickapoo, Prairie Band Potawatomi, and Sac and Fox. We must remember that the land serving as the foundation for this institution was and still is stolen land acquired by white settlers. We pledge our commitment to creating decolonized spaces at the university while advocating for the support and future success of Indigenous faculty, staff, and students at KSU. With that, I will now turn it over to Speaker Pro Tempore Billman to lead tonight's roll call.
Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to see you all tonight. Let's go ahead and get started with Atchison.
Here.
Bain.
Here.
Booz.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Bruce. Brummett. Oh, thank you. Bruna. Burke.
Here.
Carr. Clements.
Here.
Colburn.
Here.
Crosslow.
Here.
De Santiago. Diaz de Leon.
Here.
Dillaboo.
Here.
Doc.
Here.
Fox. Thank you. Frederick.
Here.
Gallardo.
Here.
Garrett.
Here.
Glasscock.
Here.
Grills.
Here.
Gomez.
Here.
Hamlin. Harmon.
Here.
Hurd.
Here.
Hernandez.
Here.
Hutchings.
Here.
Jambunathan.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Levi.
Here.
Loya.
Here.
McKee.
Here.
McVeigh.
Here.
Muthukumar.
Here.
Knoll.
Here.
Norwood. Dunning.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Panikatu.
Here.
Porter. Purdy.
Here.
Richenberg.
Here.
Rodriguez. Rossi.
Here.
Shunjay. Thank you. Snyder Ben.
Here.
And then Snyder Blaine messaged me that they're here. Vaughts. Thank you. Vogelmore.
Here.
Wallace.
Is this the other bathroom?
Ward. Thank you.
No,
Wells.
it's a cabinet. Here.
Wilcox.
Here.
Willis. Oh, yes. And Windholtz.
Here.
Okay. Was there anyone whose name I did not call? Okay. Perfect. With that, we have 47 senators present, 3 excused, and 9 absent. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks so much for taking care of that for us, Maggie. With that, we'll now move into our first open period. Our first open period speaker for tonight is Jim Parker, who's the director of Lafayette Health Center and University Counseling Services. So Jim, I'll turn it over to you and I'll get your presentation pulled up.
Great. Thank you, Speaker. I appreciate it. My name is Jim Parker, and I am the director of Lafayette Health Center and Counseling Services. I've been at K-State since 2013. I'm in my 26th year of healthcare administration, and I have a graduate degree in business administration from Kansas State. And I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. So that's just a little bit about me. I'm going to be going really quick. So if the speaker could hang on and keep up with me, that's good, because I want to provide some element of just a background, because I don't know who knows about Lafayette Counseling and who doesn't. So if it's old news, just hang with us and we'll get to the question session and maybe a little bit more interesting things here in a few minutes. So just to discuss counseling first, the mission of counseling is to provide short-term mental health therapy. And you can read that. I don't want to insult your intelligence, but our model is designed for college students, and it's essentially, and we're going to get to this in a moment, it's designed around an 8-visit encounter per semester for folks that are interested in receiving some form of mental health counseling. We also try to make sure that we're treating the person as well as giving them the greatest opportunity to achieve academic success. And so, that's kind of it in a nutshell. I could talk for an hour or so on this, but we're going to go on to the next slide. We also provide services and access to students through advising faculty as well as visiting classes. We have we're building a robust outreach program associated with counseling, and part of the challenges that we face are, I'll share with you that in a recent survey, I'll talk about just briefly later, there's a significant consideration of suicidality in our student body, and so we're trying to help our faculty and staff and people who influence students to help them understand a little bit more about what they can do to help students if they're facing problems and don't know where to go, what warning signs to look for, and then create a kind of a specific referral network for students so that they know where to get help. All right, next slide, please. The types of therapy that we conduct at Counseling Services would be individual. That would be a face-to-face type visit. Group therapy is also face-to-face, but it's more group dynamic, and it helps maybe some students and people that aren't used to functioning in a group learn how to be comfortable and function well in that group. We do provide couples therapy as well. We also do biofeedback, excuse me, and that is guided by one of our psychologists, where we start to basically learn how to deal with stressors and things in our life by relaxing, taking it easy, coming up with mechanisms that we can deal with that better. And then we also do instructional workshops where we go out. This doesn't count against any of the visits at counseling, but the workshops are more information, and they're designed to give people tools to cope with whatever issues that they might have. Next slide, please. The great part is last year made the decision to provide 8 visits at no charge, which are basically covered under the privilege fee revenues that Counseling Services enjoys. And there used to be a charge. It was a small charge, but I do believe that by having the 8 visits at no charge, we're eliminating some barriers for folks that might need some assistance. Next slide. The group therapy options by name are understanding self and others. Spectrum is a wide range of topics that's addressed, and it's more of an open-ended type of discussion group. Taming the Anxious Mind and calming the storm are dealing with issues of anxiety predominantly, and also how do we deal with adverse circumstances, maybe something even like COVID-19 and some of the challenges we've all faced there. There's a group that's focused on graduate and non-traditional students as well, and then living with loss. And this one is led by Dr. Ryan Staley, and it's designed to help people who've struggled with the loss of people in their lives, relatives, friends, any number of different relationship situations, and how do you deal with those and move on. Next slide, please. I will promise you that no matter what happens there, confidentiality is always going to be maintained. It's one of the highest priorities within counseling. It's hard enough for students to sometimes come to see us, then they should not have to worry about having appropriate levels of privacy and confidentiality maintained, and we're committed to doing that. Next slide, please. Yeah, that's some contact information from Counseling Services. You can go to our website, although we're trying to update our websites, but we've been pretty COVID oriented the past 8-10 months. The folks that are working our website would also like to let you know that right now counseling does not have a wait list. And although we are predominantly remotely operating and conducting therapy that way and finding great success with that, but if there's ever any questions about that, don't hesitate to contact us and find out what options you have in terms of getting visits set up. All right, next slide, please. Now we're going to go to Lafine Health Center, and yeah, this is the mission of Lafine. Basically, it's to offer accessible, high quality, affordable outpatient healthcare to our students on the Manhattan campus. We also provide a lot of education and opportunities for peers to be certified peer educators to provide information about health and well-being and how people can take care of themselves. Next, please. Just a little brag here. We were voted last year #2 in the United States by Princeton Review, the #2 health center in the nation. And I believe this year we were demoted to #3. So we're pretty anxious to get back up and maybe even get back to #1 if we can. I know that my competitive nature is getting that way, and you know, that's not really why we do it. We don't want to just be #1. We just want to take care of our students and the folks that we've promised to care for. Next slide, please. One other note that is different than many outpatient healthcare clinics is we are an accredited agency. So every 3 years, an outside credentialing agency comes in and does a full assessment of our operations, our documentations, our policies, our finances, things of that nature. And then we're granted accredited status. And I will share with you that Lafine Health Center has been accredited since 1989. And so we've had nothing but glowing reports from our accreditation reviews. And we look forward to doing one. We're hoping in this coming January. So next slide, please. This is just a list of what we provide. Right now, we have a 24-hour nurse line. We do ADHD testing, alcohol and other drug education, allergy injections, dermatology, family practice medicine, which is the bulk of our service there. We do provide quite a few immunizations, and here's my chance to say if you haven't gotten your flu shot yet, it would be a good idea to do that. Just give Lafine a call. We do laboratory testing, which I'm going to touch on in just a bit with COVID. We do have a massage therapist as well at Lafine who can provide 30 and 60-minute stop massages for really cheap for students. I think it's $24 for a half an hour, and I think $48 for an hour or so. We provide mental health first aid training to folks. We do have 2 mental health nurse practitioners there that help with medication management. We have nutritional counseling, pharmacy, a drive-through pharmacy, and our prices are generally at or below market value in the area. We have a physical therapy and rehabilitation department. We have 3 sports medicine doctors who are also family practice docs. They served a lot of the athletic teams here, but they're just really great docs, all of them. I would say they're tops in the nation, frankly. We provide travel consultations for folks that are going overseas to make sure that they have their appropriate vaccinations and they're prepared to deal with whatever health issues might arise. We provide women's health, and then we also have x-rays or imaging services as well in-house. And generally we get the results back from those within probably 20 minutes. And so it's really a wide variety of services that we offer our students. And I would say probably more than most any other health center in the country, frankly. All right, next slide, please. Privilege fees allow access to the health center for our students. And most of the consultations and office visits are basically covered by those privilege fees. And so we don't want cost to be a barrier, but we also can't go in the hole either. So we do have to recover our costs, but the privilege fee covers just your general visits with your doctors. If you have to have some work done or stitches put in, that might cost you a little bit. But certainly it's much less than you'd pay at the hospital or urgent care, and that's really the way with most of our charges. They're below market by about 20% right now. So next slide, please. A couple of things, there are three things that I should mention is there are some requirements for students with respect to vaccinations and just making sure we have appropriate documentation. Tuberculosis screening is a state law. It's required by state law that we ask our students to do that. Meningitis screening and vaccines, those are for students that are on campus and campus housing. And that's also a requirement, not a law, but it's a requirement by the Kansas Board of Regents. And then the measles, mumps, and rubella vaccine, that is a requirement. That's a campus requirement. That's pretty much standard for all universities of our size, because the mumps aren't bad. We've had mumps in the past 3 or 4 years, but measles are incredibly infectious, and we want to make sure we don't have any measles on our campus. So that's why we have people do that. All right, next slide, please. I wanted to talk about COVID-19 basically, and just what Lafine's done. And I don't really have a ton of time to brag about this, but we have pretty much over this past 10 months converted from a regular outpatient clinic to at times probably 70% of our clinic was devoted to COVID.
I'm going to jump in here. It looks like your time's expired.
Okay.
However, can I get a motion from someone to extend time? Chair Booz moved to extend time by 5 minutes. That was seconded by multiple people. Are there any objections to extending time? Seeing none, you have 5 more minutes.
All right, thanks. I'll go quick. We have ramped up COVID testing. We are now conducting contact tracing, investigation, and training for the campus, for students that reside on campus, as well as the athletic department. And that doesn't matter whether they live on campus or off. And that was by memorandum of understanding with the county health department. We have been serving an advisory role to administration, upper administration, and other campus groups on a weekly basis, actually daily basis in many cases. We have collaborated with Riley County Department, Kansas Department of Health and Environment, and other outside groups. We were the kind of owners and pushers of the Every Wildcat, a Wildcat campaign that started here back in June at Lafine Health Center. We have opened up a asymptomatic testing clinic for the Polytechnic campus students, and anyone can go there, but it's mandatory testing for the flight program students. We have worked almost daily on communications and marketing with DCM to make sure that we have appropriate messaging out with respect to COVID. We also have implemented remote access both in Lafine and counseling. So Lafine's not so much, but counseling is still in that modality. And that has offered us a lot of flexibility with students that didn't feel comfortable coming in. All right, next slide, please. Everybody should know about the My Lafine patient portal. That's a major part of how you can get information and contact Lafine Health Center. Next slide. We also, through our health promotion department, sponsored the 21st Birthday Project. Some of you may have heard about that. It's where we do peer education and actually try to talk with folks when they turn 21 so we don't have any tragedies due to drinking, over drinking. Next slide, please. We offer basic life support and CPR for both students, faculty, and staff. Next slide. A couple of the peer education groups, WellCat ambassadors. There's about 40 WellCat ambassadors. Within that group, we have about 8 WellCat coaches who have received extra training. And our Thrive Navigators is the brand new mental health outreach that Chris Bowman is starting at Lafayette. And both of those are just going to be an incredible group. WellCat Ambassadors already really does a great job, but Thrive Navigators, if anyone's interested in peer-to-peer education on mental health, just give us a call. Give Chris Bowman or me a call and I'll get you hooked up. Next slide. Just a couple of things we've been working on. I mentioned that every Wildcat a Wellcat. We are also one of the anchor groups on campus for the JED campus initiative. That's going to be rolling out. That slide in the middle on the bottom is Healthy Minds survey. We just conducted that. It closed yesterday. We're waiting the results from that. We also participate in the National College Health Assessment. And so with that in mind, that helps us understand how to better serve our students. Next slide, please. And that's the contact information for Lafayette. I don't think there's a slide after that. So I am more than willing to answer any questions that I possibly can.
Yeah, at this time, we'll now take any questions. If you have a question for Jim, please just indicate so in the chat and I'll call on you. So this time, if you have a question, please just let us know. Question from Chair Brown.
Hi, Mr. Parker. Thank you for coming and speaking with us today. I was just wondering if there was anything that us as Student Senate could do to help benefit Lafayette counseling. So whether that would be like giving some like word or like telling all of our friends about like a certain program that you have that you feel like is underutilized, or an area that you think students should be like focused a lot more on in terms of advocacy.
Sure. You know, thank you so much. I appreciate that question. You know, the challenge we have is really the main challenge we have is communications with students. And part of the reason is I believe we're vying for time and brain space and vision. And it's like any advertising on TV, they're all trying to get your attention. The problem is when we send things out, a lot of times not a lot of people see them. And then there's confusion about how something should go or whatnot. So I would just ask if you would be willing, it shouldn't be too much, if you'd follow Lafayette Health Center on Twitter or whatever format that you're working with. And please feel free to retweet if you would. This is going to be helpful for us as we continue to work with COVID, as well as when we're starting to talk about the JED Campus Initiative, which focuses on mental health of our students. Some of you know last year that we had some suicides that occurred on campus, and that was horribly tragic. And I am committed, as are our counselors and Lafayette staff, to try to have an impact, a positive impact on that. We do have some data that I would be happy to share somewhere down the road with you to show exactly you know, some of the data that shows why we need to work hard in this area. So that would be a great help. If you're willing to follow us and retweet once in a while on something that you see, that would be great. And thanks for asking that question.
Are there any additional questions for our speaker? Chair Brown, yeah, if you have a follow-up, you can go.
Hi, I have another unrelated question. For Lafine's asymptomatic testing, I was wondering if there were any like regulations on that, or if students could just kind of like get that done whenever they please.
Yeah, the only thing that limits access to that, there are a couple things. Number one is the availability of appointments, and you have to go onto the portal to do the asymptomatic testing through the patient portal. Because we can only handle so many a day and get those processed appropriately and make sure that the right results go to the right person. So that would be one thing. The other element is asymptomatic testing. We're trying to limit that to once every 2 weeks, once again, so we can handle the load of testing that we have. So we're doing that. And then also, if you've had COVID or tested positive for COVID, as I have in August, then you might want to give us a call to find out if it would be advisable to have you coming in for testing, because it doesn't make sense if you've already had it to test again for that. Plus, we're trying to make sure we have enough resources and time slots available for anybody that wants to partake. But I would encourage you in the spring. We're still going to be trying to get a statistically significant number of folks to participate. And so if you're willing to do that, I certainly wouldn't discourage you from doing that. And don't hesitate to call us to ask questions.
Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
Looks like there's a question from Chair Colburn.
Yeah, you just mentioned this briefly, so I was curious. As students come back from winter break, what efforts are there going to be to test students, or what kind of recommendations, I guess, do you have for students who are coming back from different states at home, or just different activities over winter break when we come back for spring semester?
Sure, thank you, Chair Colburn. What I would share with you is this issue is being discussed at the President's cabinet level right now with myself, Dr. Gorel, Dr. Lane, and we're trying to make sure we're balancing all of the resources that we have and do a very good job of making sure students feel safe coming back. I'll share with you that our model was different than some other universities that tested everyone upon arrival. What we found is our model was just as effective, at least right now. We've had at or lower levels of positivity in our student population as many others. As a matter of fact, the results from last week, I think it was 10/17. I didn't share this before. We at Lafine, we've conducted 9,066 tests. 888 of those were positive, and negatives were 8,167 tests. So our positivity rate is at or lower than what other universities are. And so we feel comfortable with what we did. We followed CDC and KDHE guidelines when we did that testing. Now, as far as coming back, there's just a couple things that I'd like to mention. Number one is we really need to emphasize following all the appropriate recommendations. I think probably the number one recommendation is wash your hands. Wash your hands, don't touch your face. The second element of that discussion should be, if you feel sick, don't gut it out. Call us, call Office of Student Life. If you need to communicate with your professors and let them know you're not feeling well, that's a recommendation, because certainly we don't want students feeling compelled to attend class if they're sick. That would be kind of counterproductive with respect to COVID. And then, of course, practice the appropriate social distancing, which our policies on campus are supportive of, as well as mask when appropriate. And so those are the main things. You should also expect to be hearing from us what our mechanism for testing and the completed plan, probably within the next couple weeks. But that's another thing that I would ask, if it comes out on social media, if you don't hear it, please, or you catch it on social media, please don't hesitate to retweet those, because that will help students and their families understand exactly kind of the direction we're going to head. Was that helpful?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks like time for questions has expired. I'll entertain a motion to extend time for questions if there are any additional questions. So please just let us know if you have any more. From what I can see, it looks like there's no more questions from anyone in the body. So if we could just have like a round of applause, through your virtual clap function for Jim Parker. We really thank you for taking the time to come in and just inform us about Lafine and counseling's protocols and everything right now, particularly with COVID. We really appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Speaker Bothwell. And hopefully, I can't wait to engage with you in real person sometime as soon as we are able to do that safely. And thanks so much for the opportunity. And if you ever have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call, okay? Y'all have a great evening.
Thank you so much. With that, I now just want to see, are there any additional speakers for open period? I was told that there would be today, but I don't know if they're on the call or not. Anyone else who would like to speak for our first open period? I just want to make sure I'm doing a call.
Is this where I should speak?
Yes, perfect. Okay. Yeah.
Perfect.
I'll
Hi,
turn the
everyone.
floor over to Kari.
Thank you so much. I am just here to talk for a minute or two about Camp War Eagle. I worked there this past summer and just wanted to share the opportunity with you guys because I know this is a group of leaders and that is what camp is truly all about. So like I said, I worked there this last summer. It is a Christian sports and adventure camp that's located in Northwest Arkansas, and it serves kids from 6 to 17 years old of multiple different backgrounds, very diverse, and they specifically highlight kids with underserved backgrounds who might not be able to come to other camps if they can't afford it. But why I'm telling you this today is because we are hiring camp counselors for summer 2021, and I just wanted to reach out to you guys and see if anybody would be interested in that. We're looking for leaders who just want to have a positive impact on future generations, and literally every skill set can be utilized at camp. There's sports, crafts, horses, lake activities, camping, biking, cooking. There's so many things. So every single one of you could be an integral part of camp this summer. And all of this you get to do while you're having fun with kids. And so I obviously don't know what all of you are going to be doing in the future, but there's so many different opportunities and ways that you can grow for professional life or just as a person in general. But we are having interviews this next week. Camp is coming to campus, kind of, because of COVID restrictions, but they will be at, I'm pretty sure it's the Bluemont Hotel. Yes, the Bluemont Hotel lobby. They will be there, and they're just doing non-committal interviews. You are not interviewing for a job or anything like that. They're just wanting to get to know you, and they want you to get to know camp and see if it could be the possible fit for you this summer. So if you are interested, I'm going to put some information in the chat below just about how you can learn more about Camp War Eagle and like what our mission is, and then also how you could possibly get involved. I would love to see some of you at camp this summer, and I truly think it's just an amazing opportunity that I would love for all of you to take a chance on. So that is all. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions, let me know.
Awesome. Are there any questions for Kari about what she presented about tonight? Seeing none, thank you so much for coming, Kari. We appreciate you taking the time to come attend our meeting tonight.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me. I hope you have a great rest of your meeting.
Thanks. With that, I just want to do one last double check. Are there any other speakers for first open period? Seeing none, we'll now move on with the rest of our agenda for tonight. Next up is approval of the minutes. The minutes were distributed earlier this week. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from earlier this week? If I can get a so moved in the chat, that'll be good enough. Moved by Caucus Leader Phillips and seconded by Senator Kraslow. Are there any objections to approving the minutes? Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved. Next, we'll move into announcements for this week, and we're going to spend a bit of time on some of these. So to start off with, SGA is looking for students to serve on the elections committee. I do want to let everyone know right now that we have only received one applicant for the elections committee at this time. And this is a committee that's typically made up of around 5 people. So I really do want to stress this opportunity at this time. We are willing to extend the deadline for the form to go. However, I'd really, really like to push right now that if you are like a senior or you are in a position where you know that you aren't going to be running for Student Senate next year, I would highly encourage you, like really implore you right now to fill out that application and consider volunteering some of your time to help with our elections. Particularly this year, it's going to be super weird and we need a really strong team of individuals who are willing to commit to stuff. I know Elections Commissioner Coleman is really looking for some help here. So if you are like, like I said, if you are like a senior or you are in a position where you know you won't be an SGA next year, if you're an intern and you don't plan on being in the legislative branch, like you want to go to judicial, like I'd encourage you to apply for the elections committee as well. Again, this is open to anyone, not just student senators. If you know other people who you think would be good candidates, please pass this information along to them. I don't know how long exactly we're going to extend the deadline for, but we really would like to ask at this time that you do it. So again, like if you have the opportunity to serve on this committee, I'd really like to ask you at this time that you like please consider doing so, because this is like a really important committee that's really guaranteed towards like fairness and equity and ensuring that our elections run in a way that like works well for like everyone on this campus. So again, I'd really like to implore people. I know I'm stressing this a lot, but I would really like to ask that if you are in a position where you can take on this time commitment, it'll basically be like a 1 month, like you'd apply right now, have a meeting or two before Christmas break, and then you would come back and have like a pretty busy like first month of school as elections are going on, but everything would be wrapped up by the end of February, pretty much. So I'd really like to ask that you please consider this position and consider applying through the link that's on the agenda. I'm going to revisit the second announcement in just a sec, but I do want to let people know that there's another opportunity available. Technology Director from the Executive Branch, Arian Tile, is looking for members to serve on the Technology Committee for this year. They'll advise the IT group, give feedback to administration on how to serve people on campus. They work in classroom tech, SGA projects, programs and websites, etc. Meetings are only once a month through the school year. Please fill out the Google form that's on the agenda or email Arian at the link at his email address, which is linked on the agenda. Next up, the Governing Docs Not Too Spooky is an event that's going to be hosted by Speaker Pro Tempore Maggie Billman next Wednesday, the 28th from 4 to 5 in Wildcat Chamber. So this is going to be an in-person event, which we're really excited to be able to host. So this can be your chance to interact with other members of SGA. Please consider signing up for that if you have the time. This is going to be a fun 1 hour event. It's going to be informative about SGA. I know stuff like legislation and stuff is going to be talked about there. So please RSVP at that link if you're interested in going. I know I've gotten feedback from some people that they really want more in-person events, and this is one that we're actually able to host. So I'd really encourage you to go if you are looking to be more engaged with SGA for this year. Finally, this is the last week of SGA's partnership with the Student Athletics Advisory Committee and their Cats for Cans. So again, feel free if you want to donate either cans or monetarily, you can drop those off at the SGA office in the Student Union. And this is the last week that that drive is happening. Proxies for tonight are Atchison for Manners, Ward for Carlson, and then Harmon for Heimerman I received earlier today. So those are our proxies this week. Again, always make sure that you're requesting a proxy if you'll be gone from a Senate meeting. Better safe than sorry, even if you don't know if you'll be ready in time. You can always just let me know. Next up, the SGA member of the week this week is International Affairs Director Vedant Kulkarni for all of his advocacy work for students last week. In response to the KSU Night Zoom bombing, Director Kulkarni wrote an op-ed piece that the Collegians, spoke on the KSGB morning radio show, spent hours tracking on campus, and had multiple meetings with KSU administrators. And that was in the span of about 24 hours. So Vedant's work for students does not go unnoticed, and we really, truly appreciate his commitment to ensuring students from all backgrounds feel welcome at K-State. So can we get a round of applause, virtual round of applause through the little reaction GIFs for Director Kulkarni and all the work that he does. Thanks so much, Vedant. You can see the upcoming events calendar on there. And then finally, for our quote of the week this week, is the only person you are destined to be is the person that you decide to become. And that's by Ralph Waldo Emerson. I do want to jump back up though to the second announcement on the agenda because we're going to take a short pause here so you all can complete this. This week, we are starting our committee reorganization project. So to explain a little bit more on that, due to like the budget cuts that happened to the on-campus and travel allocations committee, we're anticipating that they don't have a large amount of requests for this year based off what we've already gotten and the amount of money that we'll have left to allocate. So we want to encourage students to have the ability who are on those committee. You're being invited to join onto another committee if you want. The other committee chairs graciously said that they'd be willing to expand their committees to include you in the process. Additionally, though, we still have some vacancies from people who've dropped or moved committees, et cetera, throughout Student Senate. And that actually leaves some open spaces, particularly on those travel and on-campus committees that'll now be on call for the year. So that's a great opportunity for a student senator who's on another committee who would be willing to take on an occasional extra meeting or email to take on a slight extra responsibility. And then finally, we've just had some other student senators we've had 7 new ones over the past month. So if you're a new student senator, this is also your time to join a committee right now. So at this time, I would like to ask that all student senators please take the time to fill out the Google form that is right there. Based off the questions that you answer, it'll take you to different sections of the form. But at this time, I'm going to pause the meeting for 3 minutes so everyone has the opportunity to fill out that form from their agenda. It was also linked on the email I sent out last night. But it's pretty important for our information gathering that we have everyone fill this out so we can just get an update of where everyone is for the year and where everyone stands. Over the next week or so, myself and the committee chairs are going to work on readjusting and making sure all our committees are full and everyone's engaged in the best way possible for the year. So again, this is your chance to double up on a committee and take some extra responsibilities. If you would like to, you don't have to, but we're offering that to you right now as well. So again, I'm going to pause the meeting right now and we are going to reconvene at 7:48. This way, all student senators should hopefully have the chance to take the time to begin filling out this survey. And Speaker Pro Tem Billman just sent it in the chat, so it's even more accessible for you right now. So with that, we're going to take a short mini recess of 3 minutes so everyone can fill out this survey. Just student senators, if you're another position, you don't need to fill it out. But if you're a student senator, please fill that out at this time. We'll reconvene shortly. And we're back. So if you haven't finished that yet, please take the time to do so. I'll be emailing everyone who didn't get it done sometime like early next week. So again, please finish that survey if you haven't yet. But with that, we're going to continue on with our meeting in the interest of time. So next up, we're going to move into committee reports for this week. Are there any committee chairs who would like to give a report? Chair Colburn.
Hey everyone, so I'm gonna stick just some useful links in the chat ahead of my report, and I'll just kind of go through and explain them. So first of all, GR is really looking in these next, 11 days, 12 days, I don't know. Can't come soon enough, except for it can. Anyway, you know what I mean. You all feel me. To really get out the vote for the upcoming election. So we really want to get people excited and engaged about voting, as well as getting out some really important information about candidates, voting processes and procedures, and just general opportunities. One of the ways that our committee thought would be a really fun way to engage Student Governing Association and just kind of, I don't know, have fun and share with the rest of the student body is by creating a fun video, like TikTok style, of all of us voting. So there's a form. The first link that I sent in the chat is just a link to a Google form that's going to share like how you're planning to vote if you want to be featured on the SGA social media page. So we're going to create a video that, in short, I don't use TikTok, but so pardon if I'm not the best at explaining this, but in short, like uses fun, like throwing transitions between everyone. So if you're sending your vote by mail, then we'll like have you like throw a pen or throw your ballot to like the next screen, and you'll catch it from the screen, throw it to the next, just between all of the members in SGA who are voting by mail. If you're voting early, then we'll ask you to like show your I voted sticker, like put it up to the camera, pull it away, and that's how we'll transition from everyone. So I'd love for as many people to be involved in that as possible. We're hoping to post that video like on probably like the Monday before elections, or like the Monday before that Tuesday, if not like really early Tuesday morning, just so that it's a fun, exciting way to engage with November 3rd and that final day of voting. So we're really just focusing on ways to keep this election and involvement, I guess, fun and engaging. I think it's been a really difficult year for a lot of reasons, and we just want students to feel encouraged about voting and view it as something fun and also an important responsibility. If you're planning to vote on the day of November 3rd, then we'd still love to feature you. If you want to just like share to your individual social media pictures of you and your friends or whoever you go vote with, we'd love to share those as well. So you can go ahead and fill out that form and just signify that that's how you're voting, and I'll get in contact with everyone who fills out that form of like what we're asking of you with like a little more detailed directions. Again, personally, I don't use TikTok, so I'm a little unfamiliar with those things. So don't worry, they'll be very detailed. So don't feel like just because maybe you're not the most social media savvy that you can't be involved. We'd really like to involve as many people as possible. So then next, Vote 411 is just a really great website that has information on candidates kind of at all levels. They don't have like the most localized information. I would suggest like Ballotpedia for something like that, or individual race or research on like county level races, city races, if your city or town is having this election cycle, and then like judges and Kansas are also up for retention. So they don't have that information, but they've got like state representatives, state Senate, US representatives, all of the things. So that's just a great link to share with people who might not feel like they're the most educated on some of the lower level races. Even though it doesn't get into the minutia, I think 411 does a really great job of using candidates' words that you can read for yourself. And then finally is a link to the Riley County elections page. I definitely would recommend checking this out if you're registered in Riley County or know anyone else who is. So if you're registered in Manhattan, there's actually a voting site in the Union that is open from Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. for the next week and a half or so. So that's a really great opportunity. I know I and a few members from GR are planning to probably all go together and vote and have a fun time. So maybe I can share that information out as well. We haven't decided on a time, but if you want to vote with other SGA members and second floor of the Union, then that's also a great opportunity. So you can find that specific information at this website, as well as information on how to vote. I know some of you, this is probably your first time voting ever if you've recently turned 18. So it can be a little intimidating to walk up to one of those voting machines, or maybe you're worried about filling in your mail-in ballot correctly. There's lots of great information on that website. And then it also, of course, prepares you for November 3rd and can tell you where to vote depending on where you live. So those are just a few great links that I suggest you, one, check out, and two, also share as widely as possible with everyone kind of in your networks and in your bubbles. I think it'd be really great to get as many people turned out to vote as possible. Campuses always really struggle with that, since we are such a transient population and we don't always feel connected to where our feet are, and we forget where our registration is, or all of those pieces. So there's lots of campus stakeholders that are working on this project, and these are just a few small ways that we can all kind of help out on the larger efforts of voter engagement and get out the vote effort. So we'll be sure to keep you updated on more, but yeah, I stand for any questions.
Are there any questions for Chair Colburn? Seeing none, thank you so much, Lily. Are there any other committee chairs who would like to give a report? Seeing none, we'll now move on to directors' reports for the evening. Are there any directors who would like to give a report? Vice President Lundeen.
Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well this evening. I'm just here to give a quick update on EOF. We've had a few meetings so far, and we've gone through all of the proposals. Next week, we are going to send out our initial responses and see what we can do to not necessarily cut some of the proposals funding, but we are facing a problem with not having a lot of money in the fund and having too many proposals, which I think is both a good and bad thing. I'm glad people are still trying to get some funding. And as well, we also got the Green Action Fund proposal up and running last week, or not last week, a few weeks ago. We found that it was completely gutted from Org Central or OrgSync, the archived versions as well. And we got a new form for that, and it should be posted in K-State Today, I believe, next week.
Are there any questions for Vice President Lundeen? Seeing none, thanks, Lane. Are there any other directors who would like to give a report?
Also, make sure to vote.
Thanks. Elections Commissioner Coleman.
Re-emphasizing the previous speaker, get out there and vote. But also, like Nathan was saying earlier, we really need people to fill out that application for the elections committee. It's going to be a lot of work we have cut out for us, but it's going to be good work. I was really happy with the work I got to do for the elections committee last year. And I'm looking forward to doing more of that this year, even with the unique circumstances we're in. So I really hope I can get some more people to fill out an application and join me making the elections fair, equitable, and a good time.
Are there any questions for Elections Commissioner Coleman? Seeing none, are there any other directors who would like to give a report? President Whitmer. Oh, yeah, and you asked to screen share. Hold on, will change that right now. Okay, you should have the ability to now.
Perfect. Okay. So I just like to take the next few minutes to update all of you on what we've been up to in the executive branch and what specifically Lane and I have been really pushing forward the last 3 months and weeks of this term so far. So to sum that up, I use the terms resilience, civics, and opportunity to really categorize the projects and initiatives we've been working on. So in the first area of student resilience, if you remember from our priorities and our campaign platforms, we were focused heavily on a comprehensive student resilience project. That idea came from Florida State University, where they pulled in various stakeholders to create an online platform with tools and mental health resources for students. And we've identified and secured funding for a program called You at College. It's a groundbreaking, it's a new program that's just recently being marketed to higher education institutions. So it was, we're looking at a prospective launch date in January. So things are moving really fast, and we've made a lot of ground on this project recently. So the program itself would be called You at KSU. Again, it's an online platform with 3 core areas that it provides students. So academic success, career preparedness, mental and physical health, and overall connection and purpose to campus. Here's just a look, and you can look this up on your own. I'd encourage you to. We are going through a process of completing a demo of the product. And here's some more statistics of the program itself. I mentioned it's a relatively new resource that's being marketed on college campuses, and it was flagshipped at Colorado State University. So it was all made by a private company called Grit Digital Health, and it is partnered with the JED Foundation. So we secured funding through our foundation, and we're really excited about the potential of bringing this to our campus. So in addition to that, again, looking holistically, we're just starting a conversation with the Student Foundation about a joint philanthropic campaign between our 2 organizations. And so what we're looking at building on is the K-State Strong message that was initiated as a response to the pandemic early in March and April of this year. And again, this is just beginning, but what we're looking at is this program providing funding to resources like this and well into the future. And then we've been working a lot, and we're really happy Jim Parker of Lafine was able to present tonight. We've been working a lot with him, Counseling Services, and Lafine Health overall to develop mental health workshops, specifically with an emphasis on cognitive behavioral therapy, which is already a type of therapy that's worked on in our Counseling Services department, but it's a very broad type of therapy that trains you how to identify either like negative thoughts or behaviors, what psychologists determine are cognitive distortions, And again, it could be comparable to mindfulness, a more scientific approach to mindfulness, but the research is pretty clear on that. So we're working with our stakeholders from the folks of Lafayette and Counseling Services to implement those workshops, really for the overall good of our students and students to come. So in addition to student resilience, Nathan mentioned last week that we did receive confirmation from Provost Tabor. Our potential dates we're looking at are the same Mondays that we advocated for in our resolution that you passed unanimously on February 22nd and April 5th, which are both Mondays. And so now it's just been moved on to the Kansas Board of Regents for approval, and we're really optimistic about that. We even made national news, and so that's a prop to you guys and everybody involved throughout the process. I think it's really cool that we're able to do this and have such a unique proposal make its way in the headlines. So another thing we've been up to throughout this term, in cooperation with the other student body presidents in the Kansas Board of Regents schools, we've been reviewing student health insurance. So currently, students that are on KanCare or Medicaid aren't covered to receive access to the healthcare offered at Lafayette. And so they're paying a privilege fee just like everybody else. And so we're working with the Kansas Board of Regents right now to gather more information and data on what exactly our student body makeup looks like and how that applies to us to look at other initiatives and other opportunities for access to health insurance at our institutions. So, and then just a brief overview of what I've been a part of since I took office in April. We're still conducting weekly meetings. So I sit in on 2 meetings every week with our administration, practically the president's cabinet, as well as our emergency management team that's in cooperation with Lafayette. So they provide updates. I update them on the current happenings and concerns, fears, emotions coming from the student body in those meetings. And the main message right now is we've got to keep doing the little things that are working, right? So we've gotten farther, I think, than anybody thought we are. We're totally outpacing our competing institutions in the Big 12 with our low case numbers. Cases are continuing to drop both at the university, but also Riley County, which is really good. So keep encouraging your peers. I've noticed at least a lot of individuals and students on campus becoming a lot more lax on their mask wearing and things like that. But continue to do those things. Wash your hands, socially distance, and take those necessary precautions for the good of everybody in our community. And finally, the next area that I want to cover is civics, right? So I'm a history teacher. To me, civics is that place that is absent of politics and policy. It's what we share. And so here's some things that we've been working on, again, the executive branch, that take place in that arena. We convened the Intercultural Leadership Council. It is also both my International Students Director and Multicultural Student Affairs Director sit on the committee, and it's co-chaired by me and my International Students Director, Ron Lopez. So initially, we've been meeting every first and third Monday of the month. Initially, we were reviewing the action plan for a more inclusive K-State and offering our advice, suggestions, and concerns to our administration. And also, given recent events, we've been elaborating and reflecting on a response to how to improve our Case Unite event next year and in years to come, and also how to respond to the challenges that we face this year. Another proposal that has been recently in the works is what we termed a sunflower partnership between our friends across the river at KU and myself. So we brought a proposal to the Kansas Board of Regents last week and again this week, at least to start the conversation about providing essentially a snow day of no classes on both general elections and midterm elections to increase civic participation and voter turnout. We thought that's really important. We are going through, I think, I hope, a cultural promotion of engagement and participation in our democracy. And so we worked really hard on it with our KU friend, me and myself and the student body president from KU to create this proposal. Again, unfortunately, I think we were just a little late on the timing of it, but we're optimistic that this is something that can continue. And I will keep you updated. Again, we're just a week away, and so I think we missed the target a little bit, but the Board of Regents were well responsive to the idea. And in addition, so this weekend is the Sunflower Showdown. My counterpart at KU and I have a wager. So whoever loses the game is going to have to wear the opposing team's gear at school and through class. So we're excited about that. I don't know what he's thinking. I really don't want to wear KU, and I imagine I won't have to. Maybe I'm getting a little too high on my horse, but I think that's really exciting, and we've really developed a good working relationship between our two student governments. So another initiative that our student engagement director, Stasia Mendoza, has been spearheading is a Present for Day program. So this came about as a tradition from both the 1980s and 1990s that our Student Governing Association partook in. So the president would essentially choose a underclassman to shadow him for a day, and it was covered by the Collegian, and we're looking to get some more publication to really normalize leadership positions on campus, but also increase exposure of SGA. And so you can see the process. We're really excited about this. And again, it's just open to everybody. So once those applications come out, and they should be in K-State Today as well, please encourage anybody you might think would want to be involved. And then the last area I want to focus on is opportunity. These are things that are on the horizon. They're more unique programs that I want to share with you. So something that we've been working on throughout this term is the Food Security Scholars Program. This is led by Michael Dowd, our basic needs director. And we've been collaborating with Leadership Studies and student stakeholders from across campus to create this program. You remember last March, 40% of students on campus indicated that they weren't sure where their next meal was coming from. And that's too great a burden to bear at this point. So we thought, we brainstormed this program. And what it is it's, it has a component of a credit hour class, but it's 25 students that are chosen for the program. And there's two phases. So they'll be learning about student empowerment, who might be facing challenges and struggles, but also in phase two, really getting more hands-on and developed in the program itself when it comes to the realm of food insecurity, and providing their expertise and leadership in that area. We've applied for significant grants as well that would provide stipends and scholarship opportunities for research in this area. And so we're really optimistic about that. We have yet to hear back, but we're very optimistic on that note. We have a lot completed. And again, there's so many people that are involved in this, from education to students from across campus. And then we have our Safe Bar Alliance. So this is something that has typically been transitioned from, at least we transitioned from the last administration, where we're training volunteer facilitators to work with staffs of bars in Aggieville and across Manhattan to really understand how to identify when people are getting harassed and to prevent sexual harassment and domestic violence overall across Aggieville and across our campus. So we have some goals to train at least 2 bars next semester. And Sarah Haggard, our director, will begin training relatively shortly. I'll include the Google form if you're interested, or you can email her. But we're really optimistic about this program as well at this point. So if you saw recent news this week, athletics moved us the student section in the basketball planning phase. So we are combined with general admissions now. Despite negotiations, we weren't really able to do a whole lot. So the Big 12 has some pretty severe regulations given the pandemic and the severity of the pandemic to limit access to how many seats can be near the court. And so athletics brought one proposal, and we're going to have to live within the means of that proposal. It is going to be the Hunger Games. So if you haven't really read a lot into this, it's a lottery system based on who gets in. So the more games or if you attend more than 2 games or more than 1 game, your name gets in again. And then if you're chosen from the lottery system and you don't attend the game more than 2 times, you become ineligible. If you're not chosen the first time, you're still in the midst of the lottery for the games to come. We have a weird system or a weird schedule this year. I believe it's only 7 out of 14-ish games on our schedule, or home games, or are before our winter break. So they were looking for ways to incentivize students to attend, and this is the proposal we have. So it's going to be fun, and refunds we're fortunate enough to be able to get are available until October 28th. And then just a brief note again on COVID-19 precautions. I can't stress it enough to continue doing the things that we have been doing, and you're the leaders on campus, so set the example for your peers. Especially like the game this weekend is a home game, and we've done significantly better than our peers, both in the Big 12 and across the country. You don't see students not wearing their mask or not doing the little things that they're supposed to on TV in our student section, and we need to make sure we're setting a good example for the nation in that regard. So that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know that was a lot, but I wanted to provide an update on what we've been working on, and I hope I can answer your questions.
If you have any questions, please indicate them at this time in the chat and I'll call on you. Yes, Senator Brummett.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Sweet. With the Safe Bar training, is it only 2 bars because of funding, or is it 2 bars because that's how many wanted to show up?
So I'm not entirely sure. I know we struggled last year a lot to get things going off the ground. And what we need is something that's manageable. So the anticipation would be to train 2 bars, and hopefully, like our counterparts in Lawrence were able to do historically, involve a little bit of peer pressure with the other bars. But I'm not 100% sure what those conversations have been like. I'd be happy to, again, get you in touch with our director, Sarah Haggard. But I think it's just in terms of manageability and what we're able to do. 2 bars were the standard that she thought were attainable and would be productive to that overall goal of increasing the amount of bars that wanted to participate. But we are struggling a little bit with funding. Obviously, I do want to say that we are struggling a little bit with funding, but we're applying for as many grants as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Next up in the chat, I have Senator Hurd.
Hello. Okay, so you briefly discussed a more inclusive K-State, and I was just wondering if this more inclusive K-State is something that will actually be implemented, or is this just a save face for the recent events that have been occurring here at K-State? Like, what is the plan? Would you be able to elaborate a little more on that, please?
Yeah, I will put the link to the website after I get done. But this was a plan developed by the Office of Multicultural Student or Diversity and Multicultural Student Affairs, which they have specific goals that they're targeting. That were in response to Black at K-State over the summer, as well as other events that transpired during that time. And so I don't have the information really available at the time, but I will give you the information because it's all on the website, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's much more broad with action steps, goals. They're not my goals again. They're the goals that division proceeded to move forward with.
I just put the link in the chat for anyone who wants it. I would recommend checking out that website. I'd argue it's one of K-State's best designed websites in terms of readability and transparency. So yeah. The link's right there. I got you, Tal.
Yeah, and so I guess more context, like the president, President Myers was the one, again, in coordination with DMSA this summer that outlined those steps. I can't remember what time that was, but he released those to the university throughout the summer as well. It's just all compiled on a more readily available website.
Next up in the chat, I have Chair Booz with a question.
Yeah, you mentioned securing funding for you at K-State. And I was just wondering, how much is that funding and when will we need to reapply for funding for that program?
Yeah, so it's my understanding that we don't have to reapply for this. We have the program completely paid for. And I don't actually have those numbers in front of me. I'd be happy to get those back to you. But this was something that really jumped out as an opportunity, again, in coordination with the foundation, but also the JED Foundation that we've been working on this semester for a broad plan for mental health and wellness. So we identified this as a program that we wanted to implement, and funding became available.
Cool. I actually have a follow-up on a different subject.
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah, so you mentioned that they changed our seats for basketball. So the president, President Penny, and the current director of athletics signed, a memorandum of understanding, which the current SGA Senate approved. That's Bill, 2021-03, which does state in part that no changes to student seating locations will occur for this academic year. Is there any way we can hold them to that, or do we even want to hold them to that given COVID?
Yeah, so for sure, and this is something we debated. Unfortunately, again, being a method of understanding, a memorandum of understanding, it's non-committal and non-coercive in nature between our two parties. One thing we did consider, again, like you mentioned, in the pandemic, not only, their reasoning for doing this, number one was the Big 12 regulations. So we would not even be near as close as we were. And they had to accommodate for the other ticket holders. And they were putting in perspective, again, the weird season that we're going to have, which is expecting low student attendance. But also we wanted to be very careful about souring our relationship with them. Again, didn't want to put too much pressure on them, but in the negotiations process, there wasn't any room to budge. So the proposal, again, given the severity of the pandemic, was the only proposal that they were willing to accommodate for.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I believe I'm all caught up on questions at this time. Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you, President Whitmer, for your report. If you could unscreen share right now so I can get the agenda back up, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
With that, hold on, let me get mine pulled back up. Sorry, Maggie's telling me something. Yes. Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Maggie. She has a short little report as well. So Speaker Pro Tem Billman has a director's report.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, I should have done this earlier. Just wanted to share really quickly that the governing docs Not Too Spooky will be happening this Wednesday, the 28th in Wildcat Chamber from 4 to 5 p.m. I'm going to send the sign up form that's in the chat right now. I just want you to sign up so that way we make sure we have enough space for everyone. We'll be going over the governing docs, just like how to find things, where like you can see certain things located. And then I'll just be leading some fun little activities about that and just leading some dialogue. I think something that we're trying to focus on here in SGA is making sure that our governing documents and our regulations are fair and equitable to anyone that wants to be involved. And I think that the governing docs are a great place to start with those. Also, I've been hearing a lot of feedback from folks that they're just really missing personal communication and connection. So I hope that this will be a fun way to like get some more SGA knowledge and connect with some people. So yeah, of course, I will be happy to answer questions. Caucus Leader Kid, I see that you have one.
Yeah, so can you still participate in this event virtually, like at a distance? If you
Yes, I meant to like share that. I will be having it hybridized, yes. And then, ooh, I need to figure out how I'll get out the link to that. Look for it in next week's first draft announcements, or I'll just send out like a whole nother email about it. But yes, thank you for reminding me of that. It will be hybridized. All right, cool. I hope to see you all there.
Are there any additional directors who I missed or who have a report for tonight? Seeing none, I made a pretty big mistake earlier where I really jumped on our agenda from announcements to reports, and I totally skipped over commendations. That is my bad. So we're going to jump back on the agenda for just a hair right now to resolution 32. Is there a motion to consider resolution 32? Moved by Caucus Leader Phillips. And then can I get a second? Seconded by Senator Croslow. The author is not here tonight, so I will just read this for Caucus Leader Carlson. So resolution 2021-32, commendation of Heidi Oberreiter by Bryn Carlson. Whereas Heidi Oberreiter currently serves as the director of the dietetic program and dietetics and as an instructor in the Department of Food, Nutrition, Dietetics, and Health in the College of Health and Human Sciences at Kansas State University. Whereas Heidi Oberreiter was selected as the recipient of one of 2 2020 K-State Global Campus Excellence in Online Teaching Awards. Whereas this award is given to an instructor or faculty member who practices quality methods of online teaching, has a high level of teaching effectiveness as evidenced through student concern for student development and learning through student mentoring, and practices and implements innovation in course delivery. And whereas the importance of exemplary online instruction has only increased as more students are taking online classes amid the COVID-19 pandemic. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association commends Heidi Oberreiter for her outstanding commitment to quality online instruction. Section 2, upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to Didactic Program and Dietetics Director Heidi Oberreiter, Food, Nutrition, Dietetics, and Health Department Head Dr. Tandakayo Kidd, Dean of the College of Health and Human Sciences John Buckwalter, Dean of K-State Global Campus Dr. Karen Peterson, and University President Richard B. Myers. Are there any questions or corrections for this resolution? Caucus Leader Kidd.
Yeah, so on line number 29, where you have Dietetics and Health Department Head Dr. Tandakayo, it should be L as in Lima. That's my mom. That's how I know what her name is. So,
Yeah, sorry,
oh.
wait, where's the L?
So it's TAND. So, okay, actually, there's a lot of misspellings. TANDALAYO. I'll put it in the chat like that.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. I saw the name and I was like, oh, yeah, I thought your mom did work for K-State. So yeah, we will make sure that that gets fixed.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or corrections? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve Resolution 32 unanimously? Moved by Senator Croslow, seconded by Chair Booz. Are there any objections to approving Resolution 32 unanimously? Seeing none, Resolution 32 will stand approved. With that, we'll now continue on with our agenda in the proper order. Sorry about that. So we don't have any college caucus time tonight, but we do have an item under general orders for this evening. So for a bit of explanation and backstory before we move into this part of our meeting, we are actually doing a special election tonight. This is because, as I mentioned last week, we are looking at creating a special committee on officer compensation reduction that'll meet for basically the remainder of this semester. And as that committee meets, there's going to be 2 student senate representatives to that committee, kind of outlining a process similar to what would be on the normal JCOC procedure. So we do that in an election format, very similar to speaker and speaker pro tempore. So the way that this is going to work this evening is that any senator has the ability to nominate another student senator or themselves, if they so choose, for this position to be on this special committee. And I can answer any questions on that committee if people have it. But essentially, people have the ability to nominate either themselves or others. There has to be a second, and that nomination has to be accepted. Once we have all the people who are interested in this position, we will close nominations for the evening. If we have only 2 or less candidates for this position, which did happen last year, I'll just seek a motion to approve those candidates for the position. But if we have more than 2 candidates, we'll actually proceed through each one will get up to 10 minutes. I don't expect people to take 10 minutes, but essentially just a platform for the ability to share why they want to have this position for the coming weeks. They'll be able to take questions the way that people would. Once every candidate's presented, we'll then flip through debate on all of the candidates, and I have a Google form prepared for us to be able to vote on them. So you would pick your top 2 candidates that you would like for these positions. So that is what we are going to, that's kind of, sorry, I accidentally muted myself right there. So that's going to be the process for this night, kind of generally. I'd be happy to answer any questions right now. I guess for clarification, this position will sit on a committee that will specifically look at those of us who are compensated for our work in SGA. So that includes kind of the top leadership positions in each branch, as well as committee chairs. They'll perform a survey of workload, duties, responsibilities, and propose any potential changes or reductions to compensation for second semester. This will be a relatively short time commitment of about 2 weeks, probably no more than 3 meetings altogether. So it's not super intensive. And I'd be happy to take questions on that before we move into nominations if there are any. So I guess, yeah, first, are there any questions about either process, what we're doing, responsibilities? There's no bill in front of us tonight to vote on the creation of this committee. That'll actually be happening next week. But at this time, before we move on, I'd like to entertain any questions if there are any, just so I can get those cleared up right now. So are there any questions from anyone? Chair Booz, sorry, you raised your hand. I didn't see that for a second.
Yeah, I mean, you got it pretty quickly. So, I mean, what happens to the people who are elected now if for some reason the legislation to create the committee didn't pass?
I mean, nothing. This is just a small opportunity. This is just the way that's we added last year a section for how to handle like selections and elections by student senate. So that's actually outlined in the student senate standing rules under general orders, and this is the procedure to do that. And we don't really have the ability to go back and add the members. Like we need the members to create the committee, so we have to follow this first. So ultimately, like let's say the bill next week were to fail to create that committee, these members would have stood up and I guess run for a position that they didn't end up need to have. So no, like really no harm, no foul.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Are there any additional questions that I can answer? Seeing none, we'll now move into the nominations period. So again, people can self-nominate or nominate another senator for this position. It has to be seconded and the person has to accept the nomination. Before we do that, I do want to let people know that since I sent this out with the first draft of the agenda on Monday, Caucus Leader Carlson actually could not be here tonight due to her volleyball obligations. But she told me that she was interested in this position and that like she used the phrase like would love to be on it. So I would, even though Caucus Leader Carlson isn't here, I would accept a nomination for her to be on this committee as well if someone wanted to make that and second it. And we would include her in the voting and everything, even though she's not present. So I did want to let people know that. I had one person reach out to me that they couldn't be here tonight, but still wanted to be involved. So at this time, we'll now move into the nominations phase. So I'll now, like, if you have a nomination that you'd like to make either for yourself or someone else, please indicate so in the chat at this time. Okay, so I see Caucus Leader Carlson. I'm going to start with first. So it looks like Senator Croslow has nominated Caucus Leader Carlson. Caucus Leader Atchison nominated Caucus Leader Carlson, and that was seconded by Senator Croslow. Since she's not here, I'm going to assume that she has accepted that nomination since she said she'd love to be on the committee. So we will just proceed with Bryn as one of the potential candidates for this position. And then it looks like Senator Glasscock has a nomination.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker. I would like to nominate myself.
That's been seconded by Caucus Leader Phillips to nominate Creighton Glasscock for one of these positions. Are there any other nominations from anyone in the body at this time? It looks like Director Koger has a question.
So I'm not a member of Senate, but would I be able to be like an at-large type member on this type of committee?
So this committee, like these two positions are like going to be like student Senate representatives. So like the nominations tonight aren't only for student senators.
Sick. Thanks, Nathan.
Of course, thanks for your question. I'm seeing no more nominations in the chat, but just to verify that like everything's okay, I would like someone to make a motion to close the floor for nominations, just so I can make sure that everything's okay. So it looks like Caucus Leader Kidd has moved to close the floor for nominations. That's been seconded by Caucus Leader Phillips. Are there any objections at this time to closing the floor for nominations? Seeing none, the floor has now been closed for nominations for this position. Caucus Leader Carlson is not here tonight, but Creighton, I guess if you want to take like, you have a maximum of 10 minutes. I don't think you need that much, but if you want to take a short little bit of time just to tell the body why you want to be on this group tonight, I'll kind of turn it over to you right now.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Speaker. So for those of you who aren't familiar with myself, my name is Creighton Glasscock, second year student senator, College of Engineering. I served on a joint committee for officer compensation last year when he was in cycle. So I think it makes sense for me to try to serve on this committee again. With my experience on that committee last year, I put a lot of work into pushing out the report last year that some of you may have read. I think it's also important that I bring my experience in terms of reaching out to compensated members of SGA per their compensation and effort given, as well as messing with those numbers as I did last year. So yeah, that's all I have. Thank you for hearing my nomination. That's all. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Senator Glasscock? Seeing none. So we only have 2 candidates on the floor right now, which makes this easier. We don't have to do a Google form and verify the results and everything like that. However, I still would like a motion on the floor at this time. So if we could have a motion to approve the 2 candidates, that's been moved by Chair Booz, seconded by Caucus Leader Kidd. So it's been moved and seconded to approve these 2 candidates to be the Student Senate representatives to the special committee. We're gonna do like a numbered vote on this through the yes, no button feature, just so again, I can verify that like everyone had the chance to vote. So if you would open your participants window, if you're a student senator with voting rights, and if you would go in and please indicate yes or no if you approve of Bryn Carlson and Creighton Glasscock being the student senate representatives to this committee. Again, I just want to verify that like there's not a whole lot outlined, but I just wanted to verify that we followed this procedure. So if you would go in and do that, and we'll just verify the votes in just a second. Okay, it looks like I have 31 votes in at this time, and all are in the positive. So by my count, that would pass. Sorry, that's unanimous by all the votes that are in right now. So with that, those 2 individuals will be the Student Senate nominated representatives to this special committee. You'll be seeing the legislation for the special committee next week on the floor to create it. So thank you all for your time. I was prepared for this to go on a while if we needed it to. So I'm glad that that went relatively smoothly tonight. With that, we will now continue on with the rest of our agenda. We don't have any minor allocations, but we do have 1 bill in final action, which is amendments to the KSU SJ statutes regarding mandatory elections meetings. Would the author of that legislation please come forward?
Good evening, Student Senate. My name is Michael Arnold. I'm the parliamentarian for you all. Just a quick overview of this. This bill would change one part of the elections code just to make the mandatory meeting have an option for a video or a video transcript to be completed. This is just to make everything COVID proof, since we were not totally sure what rooming requirements are going to be like. And also that helps make running for Senate a little bit more accessible to everyone. If there is any questions, I am open to all of them.
Are there any questions for the speaker about their debate? Seeing none, is there any debate in the negative on Bill 13? Is there any additional debate in the positive on Bill 13? Is there any additional debate at all? Seeing none, since this is a bill, we will proceed into a roll call vote. So I'm going to turn it over to Speaker Pro Tempore Billman for voting.
right, hello everyone. Atchison. I'm sorry, I had my volume down. Caucus Leader Atchison was, what, could you repeat your vote for me? All right, Bain,
Yes.
Booz,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Bruce, Brummett, Bruna, Burke,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes, by proxy.
Carr, Clements,
Yes.
Colburn,
Yes.
Croslow,
Yes.
De Santiago, Diaz de Leon,
Yes.
Delavu,
Yes.
Doc,
Yes.
Fox. Thank you, Frederick.
Yes.
Gallardo,
Yes.
Garrett.
Yes.
Okay, and then Glasscock voted Grills,
Yes.
Grolnez,
Yes.
Hamlin, Harmon,
Yes.
Hurd,
Yes.
Heimerman,
Yes, by proxy.
Hernandez,
Yes.
Hutchings,
Yes.
Jambunathan,
Yes.
Kidd,
Yes.
Levi, Loya.
Yes.
Oh, thank you, Senator Lee.
Yes.
Loya, thank you. Manners,
Yes, by proxy.
McKee,
Yes.
McVeigh, Muthukumar,
Yes.
Knoll,
Yes.
Norwood, Nanink,
Yes.
Panikatu,
Yes.
Phillips,
Yes.
Porter,
Yes.
Purdy,
Yes.
Richenberg.
Here. Yes.
That's okay. Rodriguez, Shunjay, Snyder Ben,
Yes.
Snyder Blaine,
Yeah.
Fonts,
Yes.
Bulgamore,
Yes.
Wallace, Ward, Wells, Wilcox,
Yes.
Willis,
Yes.
and Windholtz.
Yes.
Okay. Let me make sure I'm all caught up here. Okay. With that, Bill 13 passes. Oh, excuse me. Did I miss anyone or anything? Okay, cool. With that, Bill 13 passes 47 to 0.
Thanks so much for taking care of that for us, Maggie. With that, we will now move on to introduction of legislation for this evening. The first piece of legislation we have to consider is Bill 15. Is there a motion to consider Bill 15? Moved by Chair Booz. Is there a second? Seconded by Caucus Leader Kidd. With that, Bill 15 is now being considered. Will the author please come forward?
All right, hello again, everyone. This is Bill 2021-15, amendments to the KSU SGA statutes regarding the Diversity Programming Committee Reserve Account by Maggie Billman and Nathan Bothwell. Whereas the Kansas State University Student Governing Association, KSU SGA, should continue to review and update the KSU SGA governing documents. Whereas there are no specific guidelines for the Diversity Programming Committee to draw from the Diversity Programming Committee Reserve Account, I'm not going to read that acronym, account within the KSU SGA statutes, whereas this account was created in fiscal year 2015 and has had no withdrawal since. Whereas when an organization does not use their entire allocated amount, or when the committee does not allocate all of its funds, the remaining funds are transferred to the Diversity Programming Committee Reserve Account. Whereas the lack of specificity for drawing from the Diversity Programming Committee Reserve Account has led to a steady increase in balance, and whereas drawing from reserve accounts is a responsible practice which ensures student funds are utilized in full. Be it enacted that Section 1, Section 2401 of the Kansas State University Student Governing Association statutes shall be amended as follows. So Section 240109 will now read, a Diversity Programming Committee Reserve Account shall be available for additional allocations and shall be carried forward, over from year to year. 240110 would read, any unspent funds shall be returned to the Diversity Programming Committee Reserve Account at the end of each fiscal year. And then Section 240111 would read, at the discretion of the Diversity Programming Committee Chair and with approval from Student Senate, up to $50,000 in additional funds may be dispersed from the Diversity Programming Committee Reserve Account to proposals for large-scale student-centered diversity enhancing projects each fiscal year. And Section 2, this bill shall take effect upon passage by the Student Senate and signature of the student body president. Does anyone have any questions?
Chair Booz.
Yeah, so does this mean that the reserve account has been created for a while, but actually wasn't even in the statutes because you're, adding even the definition of it?
Yeah, that's correct. So
Okay.
the reserve account has quite a lot of money in it, and I think that it would be responsible to draw from it this year due to a decrease in privilege fee funding.
Yeah, thanks.
Caucus Leader Phillips.
Yeah, hey Maggie. I was just curious, do you know how much is in the account?
I do. I should have pulled out that piece of paper. I want to say it's like 140,000.
Gotcha, thanks.
I'll get back to you with that actual number. I meant to have that out and I completely forgot to pull it. I will email you later.
Are there any additional questions for our speaker? Seeing none, thank you, Maggie, for presenting. Next up, we have Resolution 2021-33. Is there a motion to consider Resolution 33? Moved by Senator Croslow. Can I get a second? Seconded by Chair Brown. Will the author of Resolution 33 please come forward?
All righty. Yeah, so Resolution 2021-33, Opposition to Online Course Fees, by Maggie Billman, Andrew Booz, Nathan Bothwell, Madison Brown, Billy Croslow, Creighton Glasscock, Ashley Grills, Max Harmon, Vedant Kulkarni, Lane Lundeen, Sarah Pelton, Blake Phillips, Blaine Snyder, Caleb Stout, and Tel Whitmer. Whereas in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, many classes have been moved to a completely online format. Whereas Kansas State University Student Governing Association understands the decision to move some classes completely online to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Whereas on July 22nd, 2020, Kansas State University administration announced that a $70 per credit hour fee would be applied to all classes with an online modality. Whereas no evident student input was considered by KSU administration in this decision. Whereas this $70 per credit hour fee is considered to be a reduction of the previously enforced $123.79 undergraduate or $148.70 graduate global campus fee. Whereas the global campus fee is never applied to the volume of classes that it does today. Whereas many classes normally delivered in person are currently being delivered online with no option for in-person or hybrid instruction. Whereas in cases, courses that normally would be in person but are now delivered online are not identified as having additional fees. Whereas courses specifically delivered through Global Campus are identified as having such fees. Whereas failing to identify courses that have additional fees can mislead students when making course decisions. Whereas in the fall 2020 semester, 34% of course sections were taught online, accounting for 44% of seats. Whereas a student taking a typical number of credit hours would, on average, have 2 out of 5 classes delivered online, whereas the average in-state tuition would see an approximate increase of $420 per semester to their bill, whereas the current resident in-state tuition rate based on 15 credit hours is $4,687.50 per semester, and whereas KSU proposed a 3% tuition increase to the Kansas Board of Regents for fiscal year 2018. Whereas KSU proposed a 1.1% tuition increase for fiscal year 2019, whereas KSU proposed a 1.5% tuition increase for fiscal year 2020, whereas KSU proposed a 0% tuition increase for current fiscal year 21. Whereas KSU Vice President for Communications and Marketing, Jeff Morris, addressed the 0% tuition increase by telling the Manhattan Mercury, "We look at the stress that our families and economy are under right now. It's obvious that our students need as much help as we can give. As we look at that, if we really think about where our students are and the financial pressures and stresses they are under, it is important that we honor our land grant mission and keep things as affordable as we can." Whereas an average $420 surcharge approximates a 9% tuition or 9% resident in-state tuition increase per student per semester. Whereas this fee lacks the same level of KBOR oversight as tuition or the Kansas State or the KSU SGA privilege fee. Whereas increases in fees are generally not covered by scholarships that adjust to tuition or many other sources, resulting in more students being required to pay these fees out of pocket. Whereas KSU has placed financial pressure on students during the pandemic with the collection of this fee. Whereas KSU administration has estimated that a similar number of classes will have an online modality in the spring 2021 semester. Whereas because of this, students will continue to feel financial burden as a result of this fee. Whereas KSU administration has not provided adequate information as to where the revenue from this fee is utilized. Whereas KSU administration stated that in the event all classes were to go fully remote this fall semester, previous hybrid and in-person classes would not be charged a $70 per credit hour fee. Whereas this statement provides no rationale as to why a $70 per credit hour fee is being charged for online courses. Whereas student affordability and accessibility is a priority of KSU, and whereas placing financial barriers to online instruction in the wake of a pandemic goes directly against promoting affordability and runs counter to the land grant mission of widespread accessibility. Be it resolved that Section 1, the Kansas State University Student Governing Association opposes the $70 per credit hour fee being applied to online classes and requests its elimination or, at a minimum, substantial reduction for the 2021 spring semester. Section 2, KSU SGA requests a presentation from Kansas State University administration by the end of the 2020 fall semester detailing what specifically the $70 per credit hour fee revenue has funded during the fall semester. Section 3, upon passage of the Student Senate and signature of the Student Body President, a copy of this resolution shall be sent to College of Agriculture Dean Dr. Ernie Minton, College of Architecture, Planning and Design Dean Tim DeNoble, College of Arts and Sciences Dean Dr. Amit Chakrabarty, College of Business Administration Dean Dr. Kevin Gwinner, College of Education Dean Dr. Debbie Mercer, College of Engineering Dean Dr. Matthew O'Keefe, College of Health and Human Sciences Dean Dr. John Buckwalter, College of Veterinary Medicine Dean Dr. Bonnie Rush, Global Campus Dean Dr. Karen Peterson, Graduate School Dean Dr. Carol Shanklin, Incoming Vice Provost for Graduate and Education Dr. Claudia Petruski, Faculty Senate President Melinda Markham, Kansas Board of Regents member Shane Bangerter, Anne Brandu Murgia, Bill Fairborn, Cheryl Harrison Lee, Mark Hutton, Shalane Kiblinger, John Rolfe, Alan Schmidt, and Helen Van Eden. Kansas Board of Regents President and CEO, Michael Landers, Vice President for Student Life and Dean of Students, Dr. Thomas Lane, Vice Provost for Student Success, Jeannie Brown Leonard, University Provost and Executive Vice President, Charles Tabor, Chief Financial Officer and Director of Budget Planning, Dr. Ethan Erickson, and University President, Richard B. Myers.
Are there any questions or corrections for the speaker? Question from Chair Colburn.
Yeah, Blake, have you or I don't know, anyone else on this call heard what the number of online distance education classes is going to be for next semester, like proportionally?
So yeah, basically, from what I understand, it is going to be similar to this semester. I don't think in like the direction of less, but not necessarily more, if that makes sense. Not 100% clear, but similar is probably where it will be.
Are there any additional questions? Seeing none, thank you, Blake, for presenting. With that, we've now exhausted all legislation on our agenda for tonight. So we will now move into our second open period. Are there any speakers for our second open period this evening? Looks like Speaker Pro Tempore Billman would really like to go, so I'll turn it over to her.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I didn't know that I had all caps on. That's a little awkward. Let me pull up the Senate shoutouts, and while I do that, feel free to unmute your video. Ooh, good news. We have 19 shoutouts tonight. That is so exciting. Okay. Shout out to Marta for being the best egg smasher. Shout out to me for taking care of caucus leaders. I rock. Thank you for whoever wrote that. That was really sweet. For Lily Colburn for being the best chair and always having a good attitude, even when things are not perfect. Go, Lily. Shout out to Speaker Bothwell for playing The Greatest Showman before Senate. We were all jamming in here. It was a good time. Wish you all could have been here. Shout out to all of our SGA members who are running for student ambassador. Best of luck. Shout out to Speaker Bothwell for all of the hard work he does and for always having the best interests of all students at heart. Shout out to all nominees for student ambassador on the call. Hey Marta, if nothing lasts forever, will you be my nothing? That was pretty good. Okay. Shout out to Senator Crosslow for his hard work and dedication. Thank you for looking out for all students. Shout out to any interns out there for attending Senate tonight. Shout out to Madison Brown for being the best committee chair we could have asked for. Shout out and good luck to Marissa, Max, Jeff, and Stasia for their good work running for student ambassador, in addition to all of their hard work in SGA. Shout out to Senator Jessica Hutchings for getting accepted to law school. Shout out to Senator Wilcox, he's great. Shout out to Rachel Gomez, love your spunk, energy, and dedication to students. Shout out to the volleyball team for getting a win tonight. Yeah, they beat OU. Go Cats. Shout out to Marcus's mom for Max, Jeff, Marissa, and Stasia for reaching the final round of candidates in the student ambassador elections. Good luck. And this is for Senator Levi for organizing the toss-up, a debate and or discussion to inform students about various political issues. So that concludes our Senate shoutouts for the evening. So thank you so much, everyone, for submitting those.
Thanks for reading those for us, Maggie. Are there any additional second open period speakers for tonight's meeting? Seeing none, we will now move on to reference of legislation. So both things that were introduced tonight, Bill 15 and Resolution 33, will be sent to the Senate Executive Committee. So next Tuesday at 7, they'll be considered there. I'm the chair of that. If you want to come to that meeting. Looks like Cox Leader Phillips also wants to say, come hang out on the After Senate Zoom. With that, I'm just going to turn it back over to Maggie for our second roll call tonight before we adjourn.
All right. Atchison.
Present.
I had my volume up so loud, sorry. Bain.
Here.
Booth.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Bruce. Brummett. Berumino. Burke.
Here.
Carr. Clements.
Here.
Colburn.
Here.
Crosslow.
Here.
De Santiago. Diaz de Leon.
Here.
Dillaboo.
Here.
Doc.
Here.
Fox. Thank you. Frederick.
Here.
Gallardo.
Nations as well as family.
Garrett. Here. Glasscock. Thank you. Grills.
Here.
Gromez.
Here.
Hamlin. Harmon.
Here.
Hurd.
Here.
Hernandez.
Here.
Hutchings.
Here.
Jane Budison.
Here.
Kidd.
Here.
Levi.
Here.
Loya.
Here.
McKee.
Here.
McVeigh. Muthukumar.
Here.
Knoll.
Here.
Norwood. Nunning.
Here.
Phillips.
Here.
Panikatu.
Here.
Porter.
Here.
Purdy. Richenberg.
Oh, sorry,
Here.
I'm here.
I gotcha. Rodriguez. Rossi.
Here.
Shunjay. Snyder Ben. Snyder Blaine.
Here.
Fonts.
Here.
Vogelmore.
Here.
Wallace. Ward.
Here.
Wells.
Here.
Wilcox.
Here.
Willis.
Here.
And Windholtz.
Here.
All right, cool. And fix that. All right, that wraps us up with 45 senators present. Thank you so much, everyone.
With that, I'll now seek a motion for us to adjourn for this evening. Cox Leader Kidd has a move that we adjourn until next week, same time, same virtual place. Hashtag Go Cats. That was seconded by Senator Kroslow. Are there any objections? Seeing none, we will be adjourned for this evening. So thank you all for a meeting, and I'll look forward to seeing you all next week.